All right, guys. So today I'm gonna break down a couple of our players' swing videos. So we just recently had a showcase on Sunday, and today I'm going to take a couple of our players and their swings that we had at our showcase, and I'm gonna do swing analysis and swing breakdown for them and for you guys. So we're gonna do some swing analysis today. We're gonna talk hitting, and we're gonna get after it. So let's get this started. We'll go a couple months here. Let's see. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. All right, we'll start with the stance and the load. So you see right here, you got a pretty good stance, pretty good standing straight up setup. And then as he gets into his swing, what I see here is he does a pretty good job of stacking up on the backside here. This is Patrick Kiefner. He gets stacked up on the backside. However, I do want to see a little bit more of a hip coil. And a hip coil is basically when you try to get into your back hip and you're coiling your hip and you got that little bit of a turn in your back hip. That's what I want to see a little bit here from Patrick. But he does stay stacked pretty well. And what you start to see is because he doesn't have that hip coil as much, you'll see a drift almost. And then he gets into I don't know what this is, but he gets into the swing here, and then it's kind of like he's falling into the ball instead of rotating around it. So that's one thing I would say with the hip coil. Now let's get into the power position. So once he's in the power position, what we're starting to see is he's in a decent spot right here, but you then see the hands start going away from the body a little bit. So that's what they call a little bit of disconnection. So when you're disconnected, you're losing power, you're losing bat speed, and you're hitting the ball with your arms, not necessarily your body, right? So what we want to do here is we want to tighten up this turn. So the bat is dropping and it's vertical right here. We want it to be more behind his head. So as he's going into his swing, this bat is almost touching his shoulder. If the bat's almost touching his shoulder, then that's when you know he's connected. And it's that short to the ball that you see a lot of the big leaguers and professional hitters have. It's that tightness and the connection that makes them elite and hit the faster pitching. And then when we get into the swing, he has pretty good extension. However, I would like to see him make contact with the ball right here, right, with the barrel out. So when you're in this position right here, I know it's hard to see because you see the bat lag, but you want the barrel to be out in front of your hands. When the barrel's out in front of your hands, that's going to allow you to have better backspin, be on time for fastballs more, and quite frankly, you'll be able to just hit more pop, right? You'll see a lot of these guys, big leaguers, Mike Trout, he'll have the barrel out in front, and that's going to allow him to basically snap the bat through and um, hit the ball much harder. And then he extends well. And with the follow through, I think he can finish a little bit higher. I think he can finish up more and cut right through the center of the net. And what that's going to do is allow him to again backspin balls more and have better launch on it. But overall, I mean, pretty solid swing here. Just a couple of tweaks I would make just to just to clean up a couple of things. I mean, he's got a lot of power that he can tap into. I believe. I think he can tap into a lot more power. So that's something that he could definitely work on with that hip coil and staying connected. And overall, I think he can really do some damage if he fixed those. Okay. Let's see. All right. We'll do Big Aiden Funk. He's got some juice in his swing here. Um, Okay, let's see. So Aiden's a big kid. All right, so Aiden's a big boy. Um, but he does get into his hip pretty decently, as you can see. Like this back knee, when this back knee over here starts turning out, that's a good sign that you're getting into your hip, right? You see the foot start twisting as well, going outwards, and that shows you that he's getting into his hip, right? And he's using the ground. As he gets into his swing, you can tell that the bat is around his head, which is good. It's getting around his head and it's getting close to his shoulder. And what that's doing, like I was just mentioning about with Patrick, what that's doing is generating more juice, and it's making you shorter to the ball, and you're able to really drive baseballs to the center of the field. So you see how his head's down through the ball, good direction up. So this is a very solid swing here. And Aiden's a big kid, like I said, but he doesn't generate power because he's big, right? There's a lot of big guys out there that don't hit balls for power. But Aiden generates a lot of power because of how he sequences his body here. You could tell that when he gets into his back or when he gets into his swing, he's hitting against a firm front side. His head is right behind the ball. And you could see here that he's got this power box or this power V, and the barrel is out in front of his hands. Okay, and I was just mentioning that. When the barrel's out in front of the hands, you're able to really snap the barrel through and drive the ball. Aiden's about 97 miles per hour exit velocity off the tee, and for good reason. He generates a lot of power, and he's a big kid. So let's watch it again. Boom! He's able to just drive right through the ball. So very good swing there. This is Justin Paglio here. So Justin's got a little Soto going to him. All right, he's got a little Juan Soto action, little toe out in front, and he does a pretty good job of rotating his hips. Right, so that's something that is really big, especially for guys who don't leg kick, who don't stride far, and pretty much for the guys who aren't doing a lot, right? So he's just putting the foot into the ground and he's rotating. A lot of times, what you're going to see is players get into the ground early and then their hips are going to shift forward. And when their hips shift forward, they're losing so much power. And then every time they make contact with the ball, it's just a push, right? And when you're pushing the ball, that's when you're going to be flaring out. You're going to be getting jammed all the time. So that's not good, right? So what Justin does here very well is he'll get into his foot here, and then you'll see he just rotates the hips, and you could see how the barrel just lags behind. Right, when the barrel lags behind, that's what getting in slot means, right? And when you're getting in slot, you're moving you're moving in the right direction. So he's getting in slot, he's turning behind the ball, and you can see how he's got a little lean back because of how much he's generating, right? And I think personally, if he were to not lean back as much and his body was more upright, right about here on contact, instead of this being a ground ball, he probably would hit a line drive up the middle, right? And that's what I'm seeing right there. It's just a little bit of a lean back, but other than that, everything looks good. He lets the bat lag behind, and like I said, if he was upright right here instead of leaning back, he would be um, in a better position to hit line drives. So let's watch a couple more swings here from. See how he's under the ball here. Why? Because he's going towards it and he's getting that lean back instead of keeping his body on top of the ball, right? So he's leaning back here. That was better. Let's see. Yeah, he's now see the reason why he hits this ball well is because it's in the sweet spot for a lean back. So when you're leaning back, you're able to hit that low pitch, thigh high pretty well. All the other pitches he's gonna have a tough time getting to because he's leaning back. But overall, I mean, I really like his the way his hips are rotating. I really like how, the position he's in. So, I mean, he's a young guy, right? So, overall, I think that he needs to just work on staying more upright instead of leaning back as much. And then everything else I think should stay the same. You should continue to rotate off that back hip, and he'll succeed. Zach Pascucci, yeah. So Jack here, I think he's loading a little bit too early, which that is a thing, but you don't see it as often as loading late. But he's loading very early, and you see how he's just like swaying back. Wait, right when he's swaying back, now you could see this back knee. This back knee is over his back foot, right? And when his back knee is over his back foot, he's gonna have a very, very tough time with not only being on time, but actually driving the ball on the barrel. So you see how he's just leaning on. His back foot's almost coming up. So when his back foot's coming up, you can tell he goes into the swing and he's just on his backside. He's on his backside. He can't get off the backside. He's stuck. And when you're stuck on your backside, all you do is spin. All you do is spin, and then you're just rolling over the ball. Or if you get it, it's only going to be pull side. Backside is not going to be existent unless it's a flare, right? So what does Jack need to do here? Jack needs to not load past his back foot, right? His starting point is a little narrow. I think if he widened up a little bit and he got on the insides of his feet and felt stable, and he had this pyramid type thing going, and the weight was in the front of his foot, or the inset steps of his foot on both sides, I think he would be in a good spot and not allow him to load over the back leg. When you load over the back leg, you're in trouble, right? See here, let's see. No, it's a ground ball, right? So if he started here with his feet like this, got into his load, he would be able to get off his backside and not spin as much, right? So when you're on your backside and you're stuck, like I said, you start to spin, you come off the ball, and you're not able to drive anything with power in the gaps or with any type of juice. You're going to be off time. You're not going to be consistent at the plate if you're leaning back on the backside. So what Jack needs to do here is he needs to get even with his feet. His feet need to widen up a little bit. The weight's got to be on the insteps of his feet. And what Jack needs to do is worry about staying in that spot and not loading backwards. Okay, so he needs to stay in that spot, keeping his head over his body. And if he does that, everything else looks fine. His bat speed looks good, and he'll be able to drive the ball to the different parts of the field with power. Check out Chase here. Okay, so Chase. See, Chase does a good job of not loading over his backside. So this is actually a pretty good position with the lower half, except for a little bit of a drift. So what Chase wants to do is he wants to get in the hip a little bit more instead of going towards the ball like this with his head. If you could tell, you could see his head going forward. So if his head would stay where it's at and that front foot reaches instead, he'll be able to have more consistent contact behind the ball. So let's try this one. That first one was a bad pitch. Okay, let's see. A little bit better. He's still leaning forward into his swing, right? And then you could tell right here, right away, he's arm barring with his hands, right? So they're out in front and they're extended. And that's fine if he brings it back, but I don't believe he brings it back in this case. I think he just, it's just out in front. So what I would recommend is starting the bat a little bit closer to the chest and tilting it more towards um, the knob towards the catcher in almost a preset. So if he presets his hands with his elbows up and the top of the bat is facing the pitcher, the knob is facing the catcher preset, and then he focuses on getting into his hips, not drifting forward, and keeping his hands tight to the body, he'll produce a lot more power because the turn is great. We like the turn. I like what's happening on the front side, on the front side of his body. He's bracing against a firm front side, landing on the middle, landing in the middle of his feet. His hips are rotating well through the ball. He's upright. I think that if he gets his bat a little bit closer to the shoulder, closer to the chest, he's going to be able to stay connected better, not armbar as much, and really drive the ball. Uh, more video than that. All right, here we go. Got Justin Monteroso, 8th grader here. He's a stud. Let's just check out the swing hand too. Okay, Justin. I like everything that's going on in the swing. The only thing is the disconnection right here. So you can fit a huge space right in between his bat and his shoulder right there. And if Justin simply got that bat closer to the shoulder as he was starting to swing, and I keep emphasizing this, he would really generate some juice. And he's a strong kid. He's twitchy. It's just a connection, right? Him too. His hands are arm barring a little bit out. I think that if he maybe changed the grip a little bit with his putting the bat in the fingers more on his top hand, would be able to slot better, right? Because right now he's kind of have a good grip up here. It's almost in his like web of his thumb, and that's gonna just poke the bat up and out, right? So you see here, if it was in his fingers, maybe the bat would lay back a little bit better. Other than that, I really like the swing. He's very twitchy, but that's definitely something he should work on, is figuring out how we can get connected with the bat on the shoulder. And connection's been a huge thing in this whole every video we watch, right? And it's one of the hardest things to do, but my recommendation is to get a small ball. It could be this size, a little bit bigger, putting it on your shoulder, putting the bat right on it, and you're just working, staying connected. And I promise you, when you start swinging connected, you'll make contact with the ball and you'll feel like you just hit a ball like 5-10 miles per hour harder just because you're using it with your body. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing it. So, I mean, I just wanted to break down a couple swings that I saw from our showcase this Sunday or Saturday it was. And I just want to, break some swings down and stuff like that. We're going to do some more swing breakdowns. I might even open up a section where you send your swing and I'll break it down on camera. And, I'm just here to help, here to try to get you guys in the right position when you're hitting. And you never know, you might be one adjustment away from changing your career. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the next one.